Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'll be reviewing the Nike Zoom Metcon Turbo 2. So 3 pros that I have with this model is number 1, I think if you are somebody who likes to train in a more athletic style on a weekly basis, this can be a really good model to look into. So essentially, if you like to blend things like plyometrics and agility training with heavy lifting on a regular basis, the shoe should do a really good job at accommodating those asks. This model is stable enough to train really heavy in, but then also you get a nice maneuverable outsole construction in this shoe, and with the Zoom Air packet and the Nike React foam in the insole, the shoe does give you a nice level of pop. Plus, the shoe does have a more athletic fit. In my first impressions video, I referenced how this model fits like the Nike Metcon 4, which was a very low profile, very form-fitting shoe that felt similar to a cleat. And if you like that, then I think you'll enjoy this model and how it performs for that context of training. My second pro with this shoe is I'm starting to really appreciate the Zoom Air packet in the insole. Now, with this model, the insole construction is pretty much what gives this shoe its fit and feel and its overall stability and versatility. So in this model, we have Nike React foam on the insole and we have a Zoom Air packet up here in the forefoot. When I first put this on, it was a little interesting because when wearing it for longer training sessions and for all day wear, you do start to notice that Zoom Air packet, but why I like it is for plyometrics and anything where you're trying to be explosive to the forefoot, I think you do get a little bit of pop with this feature, so I am a fan of the Zoom Air packet for that context. My third pro with this model is that it is a slightly better shoe for rope climbing. So the Nike React Metcon Turbo, not a great shoe for rope climbing. You slid all around. The rope wrap on that midfoot didn't really do it justice in regard to giving you bite on the rope, but with this model, we have a reworked midfoot construction. It features a little bit more of like a grippy rubber material, and if you are doing J-wrap rope climbs, then this model should work pretty well. For S-wrap rope climbs, it's okay. It's actually not my favorite model for that context of climbing, and it doesn't compare to something like a Nike Metcon 7, but it will work. I'm a little bit worried actually about the upper durability for S-wrap rope climbing, and that's why I mentioned that J-wrap rope climbing I think will have a much better time with this model if you climb with that style. But that all being said, let's talk about a couple of cons I have noticed with the Zoom Metcon Turbo 2. So 3 potential cons that I could see folks having with the Zoom Metcon Turbo 2 is number 1, the long-term durability of this shoe's upper. So in the React Metcon Turbo, we had a split upper construction up here. So in the medial side of the shoe up here on the toe box, we had a thicker layered material. This was great for any form of lateral movement or movement where you're doing like a broad jump and jamming those toes potentially up into the front of the toe box because it helped prevent stress rips form in that upper. In the Zoom Metcon Turbo 2, in my left model here, I had stress rips form after just my 3rd workout. So in my head, I'm like, what the f? Why did this happen? So in this model, we have a low toe guard that goes around the toe box, and then we have an internal toe guard here too that covers where the big toe sits. These stress rips formed just above that lower toe guard that goes around the lateral side here, and just outside of the toe guard that's internal over the big toe. So what I did was I redid the workout that caused this model to rip initially. And so basically that was a post-activation potentiation workout where I was blending Hatfield squats with broad jumps. And in that first session, I had these shoes tight and tight, but not super tight. And I noticed that in the second session, I actually had the rip get a little bit bigger because I did the same thing with my lacing, and I was sliding forward and hitting the edge of the toe box. So I tightened down the laces and it seemed to help that issue. So if you're going to be using this shoe for jumping or any form of movement basically where you could be having any form of stress or jamming in the toe box, make sure you are tightening this model all the way because that should help, I think, prevent some of this from happening. But still, I'm not exactly sold that this internal toe guard construction and how this reworked mesh is great for long-term durability of this shoe's health. The second con that I have with this model is similar to the React Metcon Turbo. This model does creak a little bit when breaking them in, so it does have that kind of like creaky, almost squeaky sound when you're wearing them and breaking them in for the first couple of weeks. So that could be a turnoff for folks. I believe that's because the insole is so thick, it just like causes a little bit of a creak and squeak sound with the internal construction of the shoe. And then my third con with this model is that with this shoe, we do have a higher boot and it's a little bit more rigid in nature. So I was noticing a little bit of rub right here under my lateral malleolus on each foot. So if you're somebody who is prone to having rub in that area on your foot when you're breaking shoes in, I would highly suggest wearing longer socks to break the shoe in. Otherwise, you could have some rubbing there going on with this model due to the reworked boot. overall though, those are my cons with this shoe. There's a lot to like about this model, but there are also some construction changes that make me kind of question like, why did we change that? But let's talk about the performance of this shoe. So when chatting on the performance of the Zoom Metcon Turbo 2, I'm gonna break this section into a few different parts. I'm gonna talk about lifting, more versatile training, short runs, and then daily wear. So in the context of lifting and also CrossFit, the shoe does a pretty good job. Now, for lifting specifically, I like the overall stability that you get with this model. Even with the slightly thicker Nike React foam midsole, we do have a good stability in the shoe, and that's similar to the React Metcon Turbo. Pulling over 500 pounds with this model wasn't an issue. Squatting over 365 in the shoe wasn't an issue. So I think for most recreational lifters, the stability in the shoe should be pretty on point. Plus you get a nice level of maneuverability with the shoe's outsole. So up here on the forefoot, we have like a sticky rubber, and back here on the heel, it's a little bit more of a firm rubber. Then we have like this dissociated construction where these two can kind of move on their own. So for unilateral work and things where you're gonna be up on the toe, the shoe does a pretty good job at giving you a high level of maneuverability, and the midfoot does an okay job at gripping the floor as well. Now, when it comes to movements that you'll find in CrossFit workouts, I do think this is a better model for rope climbing. Is it as good as something like a Nike Metcon 7 that has a ton of guard here on the medial and lateral side for letting you bite that rope? Not necessarily, but compared to the React Metcon Turbo's midfoot, this shoe's midfoot does give you more grip. And I noticed it actually got a little bit better after about like 1 or 2 sessions, because I think the rubber starts to get a little bit worn and starts to bite a little bit better. So I think if you are a J-wrap rope climber, you'll like this model. S-wrap rope climbing is okay in this shoe, but it's not the best in my opinion. And then when talking about more versatile training, I really like this shoe, and that was why I liked the React Metcon Turbo. Is it my favorite model for CrossFit and heavy lifting? Not necessarily, but if I'm blending all these things together and also doing some versatile training, the shoe does a really good job. And that's for 3 key reasons. Number 1, the maneuverability of the outsole. Number 2, I like how it feels similar to a cleat. It almost takes me back to my athlete days, and it feels very form-fitting and very lightweight. So when doing agility, when doing anything that I'm going to be explosive with, the shoe moves really well and it feels really good on the feet, almost like a sock at times. And then also I like the Zoom Air Packet and that blend of Nike React foam. I do think you get a nice level of bounce in this shoe, and whether you're doing like lateral jumps or explosive forward or backward jumps, you should like the energy return you get from this model. Now, in the context of short runs, I would say you probably want to cap your running to about 3 miles or less. Personally, I'm not even sold that I'm going to run that length in this shoe. I more so like them for sprint work and any form of speed focus work. So if I'm running under a mile and I'm focusing on tempo work or speed work, I like this shoe a lot. I think the heel construction can be a little bit uncomfortable for longer runs, but if you do like a minimalist shoe, you may like this model for longer runs, but personally, I like them most for sprints and short runs under 1 mile. Now, in the context of daily wear, I think this shoe will work for daily wear, but I would suggest actually limiting how much you're wearing them on a daily wear basis. Because we have some durability concerns with this model, I don't want you wearing them to the gym and then on a daily wear basis and having them break down even faster. Plus, for the price point, I would say be very conscious of how often you're wearing them, especially if you're wearing them out in the rain and whatnot, where you can break down like this midfoot construction or have the internal material start to corrode due to water and moisture. So will they work for daily wear? Yes. But I would say since the price point's a little bit higher and there are some durability concerns with the shoe, try to limit how much you're wearing them on a daily wear basis. So now let's answer the question, who should invest in the Nike Zoom Metcon Turbo 2? So I like this shoe, but I actually don't think it's a good shoe for everybody. So I think if you are somebody who trains like a hybrid athlete or like an athlete on a normal basis with a lot of heavy lifting, agility, plyos, sprints, and you want a shoe that can tackle all of those tasks, this is a really good model to look into. Plus, it does feel very form-fitting on the foot, and if you like that, that's going to be an added plus for the context of your training. Now, if you're somebody who is turned off by the price point, or if you want a shoe for CrossFit specifically, I would look into other models because you could definitely find shoes that cost less, that will work a little bit better in the context of that training, and their durability will be a little bit better long-term too. So I like this model, but it's definitely not a shoe for everybody. So I would definitely make sure that you kind of fall into where the shoe is going to perform best before investing. So when it comes to sizing and fit in the Nike Zoom Metcon Turbo 2, most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size in this model. The length fits true, and the width is what I would describe as like a neutral width. Now with this model, the insole does have a little bit more rigidity here on the medial side. So if you do need a little bit of arch support, I do think you'll like that about this shoe. But if you have a wide foot, you are going to be a little bit limited with the volume up here in the upper. In the forefoot and midfoot, the upper is a little bit lower, so you might want to go up a half size. And on that note of like sizing specifications with the shoe, with the insole, you can't really take it out because that's what gives this shoe its fit and feel and its level of stability and versatility. So if you do have custom orthotics or insoles, this is definitely not going to be the best model for you, because then you're going to have to layer them on this, and I'm not sold that that's going to give you a nice stable fit. Plus with the limited upper, that could be problematic, so you might want to look into other training shoe options. So when it comes to price, in the Nike Zoom Metcon Turbo 2, you can expect to pay $150 USD. Now that price point's a little bit hit or miss for me. I think it's a hit for anybody that likes that very form-fitting shoe that trains more in like a hybrid style every week. The folks that have this model and enjoy it, like they love this shoe. I think it's a miss because for that price point, I would like to see better durability with the shoe as a whole. And if you are just wanting a training shoe for general lifting or even CrossFit, you could probably find a model that's a little bit more specific for those contexts that will be a little bit better in regard to price. Plus, if you are on the fence of this model already, definitely look into the React Metcon Turbo. This model is marked down in a lot of different colorways, so it could be a good time to get one of these shoes for a discounted price if you are interested in how they perform for you. All right, so now let's cover the weight, heel to toe drop, and insole in the Zoom Metcon Turbo 2. So for my size 10 model here, we have a weight of 12.5 ounces. When it comes to heel to toe drop, it is not specified on the product page, but when I reached out to Nike's support team, they said it's likely around 4 millimeters. Why they don't just have it set in stone is beyond me, but it does feel similar to the drop that you got in the Nike Metcon 7. And then when it comes to the insole is removable, but once again, the insole in this model is what gives this shoe its stability and versatility. So if you have custom orthotics or insoles, this may not be the best option for you, because once you take this out of the shoe, there's pretty much nothing left that separates you from the floor. So if you have, like, for example, a very thin insole and you put this in this model and you're not using the insole that comes with it, you might be pretty uncomfortable with this shoe. All right, so now let's go over the construction of the Nike Zoom Metcon Turbo 2. Up here on the forefoot, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up, and then looking at the toe box construction, we have a full mesh upper in this toe box. And then once again, we have a thin internal toe guard that extends the entirety of this toe box. And then it seems like we also have a toe guard that covers the big toe internally. The stress rips that I'm having on this shoe are just above that lower internal toe guard and then just outside of the toe guard that covers the big toe. So definitely make sure you are tightening this model all the way when you're training in them. Even if they feel snug, see if you can get them a little bit tighter so you don't have any form of toe jamming that could cause this model to have stress rips form like in my shoe. Making our way to the midfoot, we have a breathable material and a breathable mesh layer here that serves as like that midfoot cage. And then we have a nice lightweight tongue that has a loop here to provide additional tongue security. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyelets that run up. We do not have an extra eyelet for lace locking, so we just have 5 eyelets in this shoe. And once again, that tongue is pretty lightweight and there is some perforation in it. It is gusseted. And with this model's tongue, since we do have like these extended left and right wingtips here, definitely pull this tongue on with both hands so you don't have any ripping with the tongue happen, because with these thin lightweight tongues, you can run into rip issues if you're tugging on them on one side. Making our way to the heel, we have a slightly higher boot construction and it's a little bit more rigid than in the React Metcon Turbo. This model feels like it has a nice little cup down here that helps provide additional security. And we also have a plastic TPU clip here for assisting with handstand push-ups. Looking at the outsole of this shoe, up here on the forefoot, we have like a sticky rubber texture, and then back here on the heel, the rubber is a little bit more firm. The rope wrap material here on the midfoot feels like to be like a blend of rubber and TPU, and it moves pretty dang well. And then taking out the insole in this shoe, once again, the insole is what gives this model its overall fit and feel. This is made with a Nike React foam. On the medial side of this shoe, it is a little bit more rigid, so you do get a little bit of support there. And then on the forefoot, you have this Zoom Air Packet. It helps provide a little bit more pop in this model. Now you will start to feel this, I think, if you're wearing this shoe for longer sessions or all day wear. However, I'm not necessarily sold that it's a bad thing. It's just one of those things that you might not like. So it could be a little bit hit or miss for folks. But as a whole, I think that wraps up pretty much the gist of this model's construction. If you have additional questions on this shoe's construction, drop a comment down below. All right, guys, that wraps up my review of the Nike Zoom Metcon Turbo 2. So as mentioned in my first impressions video, I am doing a giveaway for this model. I plan to buy a pair and have it shipped out to you, and all you have to do to enter is drop a like on this video and drop a comment down below saying either what you like or don't like about the shoe. And if you've ever used the React Metcon Turbo, or if you've already trained in the Zoom Metcon Turbo 2, let me know your thoughts. I think it helps add a lot of depth to these reviews, because then people can read through comments of folks who have already worn these models to help them better understand if it's a good shoe for the context of their needs. I plan to close this giveaway in the next week, so you have 7 days to enter once this video goes live. But as always, guys, if you have any questions on this shoe, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.